Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Hey everybody, this is your buddy IceCat. A little bit of a live IceCat meow meow song there, because it's all weird right now, so that's what you get. Anyway, today we're going to be going through the Voicemeeter macros and how to set that up and how to add macros and how to kind of program them a little bit. Macros are basically a bunch of buttons that you can just have on screen to push whenever you're doing a live show. Or you can have them do all sorts of different things to control audio. You can have it set up as soundboards. You can set it up with other programs. It can do quite a few things. And we're going to show you how to do that. So without any further ado, let me just bring us into the Voicemeeter, just kind of showing what Voicemeeter is. First, obviously, you need to have Voicemeeter set up. I did look in the manuals here, and it does look like macros work for all versions of Voicemeeter. So whether you're using potato, banana, or regular Voicemeeter, you should be able to do the macros. I'm using Voicemeeter potato. That's why you see all the bells and whistles on this thing. And first, we need to know how to actually get the macros showing up on your computer. So in Voicemeeter, the first thing that you want to do is if you go to menu, you click on menu here, and then you want to check run macros buttons on Voicemeeter start. So check that. That means that the macro buttons are going to always pop up when you start Voicemeeter. It's a good thing to have on. That way they're all loaded up and ready for you. And so what you might see first is nothing really happens. It might show something, it might not. If you load up the macros and nothing happens, then just close out your Voicemeeter and restart it, and the macro buttons will show, and you still might not see something. If you're running multiple monitors, you might need to check other monitors, but when the macro buttons do show up, they show up as this little button right here. Let me switch over to my other desktop here. So it shows up as just this little square with just one button, and you might be like, hey, what the heck? It's that's not much of anything. But what you can do is you can either hit maximize and you'll see all the buttons, or if you click and drag right in the corner, you can basically get more buttons, and you can just go down from the side. So one of the advantages is that if you just want a few buttons, you can set a few buttons up in this in this kind of quadrant, like in the left upper hand side, and then you can just move these down so that only just a few buttons show, or 4, or however many you want. But we're gonna just expand this sucker. And just to let you know, there is another row of buttons that isn't currently showing. That I don't know why, if it's a screen or whatever, but they're down there, but you just can't really see them. And you might have to just use the buttons that you have here, but there's plenty of buttons to play with. One of the first things that you'll notice is you can just push all these buttons and nothing really happens. That's because we have to program the buttons, and it is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not super hard to figure out. I'll take you through some of the things to do that, kind of give you an examples of what I have, and we'll actually set one up for muting the mic. We'll set that up as a beginner button. That's pretty easy to do. And I'll show you where you can get the code and everything, and learn how to code it up yourself. So let's just kind of jump right into it. So the first thing that you want to do is, I suggest always just starting in the upper left-hand corner with your buttons, because if you drag and move the other way, the system basically goes from left to right. You can't squish it and see buttons that are on this side and move it here and just see the buttons on this side. It's kind of a pain in the ass with Voicemeeter, but it is what it is. I usually just leave it open like this because I like to have a lot of buttons. So the first thing you want to do is in the upper left hand corner here, let's just do a right click on the button. And then you're brought up with this configuration menu. What I recommend doing is don't worry about anything too much down in this area here. As far as these settings, these are more advanced settings. This is for like if you have a MIDI controller, like I have a Akai Mini APC. It's just like even more buttons. It almost looks like this macro button thing, but that's for like MIDI controllers and DJ controllers, things like that. That's advanced. This is for gamepad. These are triggers for the volumes and that sort of thing. We're not going to worry too much about that stuff. The main stuff that you're going to want to pay attention to is like up in this area here and these 3 area text box right here. So the first thing is a button name. So let's just start it off right away. Let's make a button to mute our mic because that's going to be the easiest. So in this button, we'll just name it, I'm going to call it mic mute. Mic mute. And then for the default button color, you can just pick whatever color you want. These unfortunately do not show the actual color of the buttons. It's just a number. If you look in the Voicemeeter manual, it will show you, and I'll show you where to find the Voicemeeter manual in just a little bit. But for now, I'm just going to pick button 8 or color 8. And then this is very important to know. The button type, you have 2 different types of buttons. You have a push button and you have a 2-position button. So basically a 2-position button means that you have a toggle button, so an on and an off state, whereas a push button is just, you just push it and it does something. So for example, let's just make a push button here. This is a push button. And we're going to then go over to here. The next thing, button subname. You can put something here. You don't have to, but I'm just going to put Voicemeeter control, and then strip 0, because strip 0 is where our mic will be. Oops, there we go. And that just helps me know what, I spell it right, V-O-I-C-E, there we go. And there's an extra E in there. This is basically just telling me what this button controls, what section, and this will make sense in just a minute. This I don't ever mess with, so you can look up what that does. I don't mess with it. The keyboard shortcut is a nice thing to have. Basically, keyboard shortcuts allow you to, I mean, basically what it says, set a keyboard shortcut to this button. And you have a lot of different options here. You can pick the 0 keys, the D key, number keys. You can use control, you can use shift, you can use alt, and then do all sorts of crazy things. What I would recommend doing is picking something that a lot of programs don't use, like do like a shift or an alt, alt 2 or alt F1 or something like that. Because basically what happens with Voicemeeter, unless you click on this exclusive key right here, any program that you have using that same shortcut, the shortcut is gonna fire the button and it's gonna fire the shortcut in the program, which could kind of cause some issues. Like, if you hit the button thinking, oh yeah, this button just controls my mic, it mutes my mic, and you're playing a game or something, then you hit the keyboard shortcut that minimizes your game, yeah, it's going to be an issue, and you're going to be like, what the heck is going on? So exclusive key just means that tells this Windows system or whatever system you're using that, hey, this is just specifically for Voicemeeter. So there's that. So let's just set this to, I'm going to set it to Alt F1. Alt F1. And then the next 3 sections here, these are very, very important. Request for initial state is basically how the button is going to be before you even push it. So this is more used for if you have a mixing controller and you want to turn have a light on, and then when you push the button, the light changes, and when you turn the button off, the light changes. There are some things that you'll use it for with regular programming, but honestly, this one doesn't get used too much. The 2 main that really get used is going to be the request for button on and the request for button off. Basically, in both of these, you're going to put some coding in here that will tell the button to do something when you press the button. So when you turn the button on, so you press it once, it does something. And then the off state would basically mean you press the button again to turn it off. So it's an on and an off sort of state. And that'll make more sense here in just a second, because we need to get some coding in for our mic. So if we just hit OK right now, basically we just have it set up as a button. We changed the color, we gave it a name, but we don't have any coding on it yet. How do you find the coding? Well, there's a couple different ways to do this. It is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's definitely well worth it. And it's not as difficult to set up once you kind of start to understand how the coding works. There isn't really a whole lot of information about it either, or like a repository for like all the things you can do with it. The manual, let me bring that up here. The manual is actually something that has all the coding in it for you. So if you just look up Voicemeeter manual for if you're using banana or potato or just regular, you can find the macros in that manual, and it actually has pretty decent explanation of all the macros. So let's just kind of go down here, find macros. Of course, I can't find it. There it is. It's on page 59. So let's go to 59. All right, so basically the macros here will kind of explain what the macro button does. Definitely worth reading through it or skimming through it just so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. Definitely read maybe like configuring the macro buttons and just what the macro buttons are, so you kind of get an idea. But it's pretty much covering what I just talked about with the buttons, like push it or to position, on, off. And then it goes into, there's the button colors for you if you want to see what button colors there are. Kind of tells you a little bit more about like remote requests. And then it kind of goes into the actual coding and different things that it can do. So you can like change the volume, you can lower the volume, which is called ducking. You can change the pitch, you can do pretty much anything that you really want to do in Voicemeeter. But we are first going to just go with the basic thing here, and we're going to set a mute for our mic. And there are some examples in the manual that you can just copy and paste in, which is very, very nice. And we're just going to take this first thing here. This is basically to mute the mic. You can see mute on the first strip of Voicemeeter, unmute the first strip of Voicemeeter. So we're going to take just these two little sections of code here, and I'm going to copy them, and then I'm going to go into our macros here, and just in this on, I'm going to paste it in there. Now what we'll want to do is, if you are looking at this, we basically have, I'll explain how it works. Let me move this one down. I'm going to move this one, because we're going to move this one to the off position. So basically what you have going on is you have strip 0, mute equals 1. So basically we're saying strip 0 in Voicemeeter, and if we go back to our Voicemeeter here, one of the things that I recommend doing to kind of help you out a little bit, another little tip, is in your menu, if you click on show contextual help in caption, that's going to definitely help you out. So basically with that selected, you'll see up here in the yellow that it basically is giving you Voicemeeter menu. Click open to open the menu. But if you click over a button or a slider or something, what you'll see is the actual name of the item that you're hovering over. So this is, let's just kind of go over the mute button here because that's what we're working with. So you can see it says mute button, let you switch off this audio source or on this audio source. Below that, you'll just kind of see another description of what that button does. And then below that, in even smaller type, you're going to see the API information, which is what we're going to be using in our macros. So you can see that this strip, this microphone strip, my Yeti microphone strip, is strip 0. So you see on there how it says strip 0, and then it just says microphone, blah, blah, blah. But if we go down by the button here, it says strip 0, mute equals 0. So basically we're telling in our macro, telling it that we're working with strip 0. So let's go back over to our macro here. So we have strip 0, that's our microphone, telling it that we want to run the mute button, and we're saying, do we want the mute on or off? Easiest way to remember this is that 1 is on, 2 is off, and if you think about 0 being an O for off, that's a really handy way to kind of remember that. If it's 0, then it's off. So 0 and O, they look alike, easy to remember. Then you know that 1 means that it's on. So basically we're telling this to turn the mute button on because it's a 1. And then once we press the button again for a 2 position button, we would be telling the strip 0 to mute off. So we would take the mute off, so unmute basically. So let's actually go up here because this is a push button right now. We want this to be a 2 position button because we want to have an on, and then we want to push the button again and have it turn off. We don't want to just push the button once and have it like mute and then unmute, because that wouldn't do anything. It'd mute it for like half a second and then it'd unmute again. We want it to be controllable, a toggle. So if we hit OK, and what I'm going to do here is let me switch over to a quad screen real quick. Quad screen. And of course it's not going to show the other screen. That up here. It doesn't look like it wants to do that. So that's... All right, well, we'll just kind of have to go with whatever for now. So that doesn't want to do it. Let me go back to here, back to our desktop, and I will switch between the two. You can see when I push the buttons that it's going to mute. Let me turn that off. So I'm going to push the mute button here. And I want you to watch that strip 1, the mute button. You'll see it light up and turn on and off. So when it turns on and off. So that's kind of the first macro in a nutshell. You made your first macro. You are able to now press Alt F1, which will mute it too. So on the macro, you're going to be able to see the button light up. And we hit Alt F1 again, and the mute is off. So Alt F1 to turn the mute on. Alt F1 to turn the mute off. Or you can press the button on or off. however you'd like to do that. So let's then set up another one here. That is an audio file for a soundboard. But what I'm going to do is just to make it easier on myself so we don't have to program all these things. So I don't have to program all these things. You're going to have to, unfortunately. But I have a pre-made button map that I am going to load. And we'll just go over the buttons that I have because there's a lot of different buttons in there. And they're interesting. So if you right click on the very top of the bar here where the title bar, you'll bring up this context menu, and you have different things here. You can save your button maps, which I highly recommend doing when you get done doing this, setting up your macros. Definitely save it. You can load it. You can run on Windows startup, so you can run the macros button when Windows starts. You can show app on startup, whatever you would like to do. Actually, I'm going to turn this off because I don't want this to run because it's already running when Voicemeeter starts up, so it's already there. So we're going to go here, and I'm going to load a button map, and I have my macro buttons right here. I'm going to hit OK or open, and you'll see I have various buttons here that we can play around with. I have a couple soundboards. Woo! And cricket one, a rim shot. And then I also have things that are like a 2-position button, so an on-off position. So I can do things like I could play some talk over music. It's not really loud right now, but I'll just kind of keep talking. And you can hear the music kind of fading in here. And it's just in the background, so it's not very loud. And then I can turn that music off if I would like. I got like the butt slam here.
Hey, Lamo!
So I can turn that on and off as much as I want. And then I have a couple other things here. So I have like the mic mute, which we just did. I have what's called mic ducking. So I have one that's a quick mic duck where I just push it and the volume fades down to a quiet level so I can talk over music. I have one that locks it in place. So these two are basically the same button, same coding and everything. The only difference is one is a push button. So like I just push it once and something happens and let go. It goes back to normal. Or this one, I push it, it stays locked in, and then I push it again and it turns off. So it's an on and off kind of position. And then I have one to switch with voice mod, and then I have some fun things for recording live that we'll look into. So let's just kind of look into the first one. The next step up, I think, would be the soundboard stuff, and I think that's the most interesting. So I'm just going to click on this button here that I already have made. You'd probably just click on a blank button, fill out the information. So you'd fill out like your button name, your color. You definitely want probably these to be a push button unless you're planning on like having it on a loop, but you have to code that in, which we'll look at. Set up your keyboard shortcut if you want one. And then this is pretty simple. All that we have is we're calling recorder.load. So if you're not familiar with the recorder in Voicemeeter, let's take a quick look at that. In Voicemeeter, you have this tape area here that looks like a cassette tape. That is your recorder. Not a lot of people know this right off the bat. It took me a minute to figure that out myself. But this actually is a voice recorder. It can record any of your inputs coming through, and then you can play it back. You can do this with when you're on a call and play people's voices back to them. It's kind of fun. But for example, what we'll do is first just make sure that your A1 or A2, like wherever your speakers are or headphones are turned on so that you can actually hear the recording when you play it. And then make sure B1, B2, and B3 or either one of those or all of them are on so that the recording actually goes out to these sources as well. But what we'll do is let's just do a quick sample. This is a test and we're recording this for a tutorial. Then I just replay it. This is a test and we're recording this for a tutorial. And if that sounded kind of strange, I don't know if it will or not. It's because I have Voicemeeter, I have OBS running too, so it's kind of doubling the audio, but normally it wouldn't double the audio. At least I'm hearing double audio. I don't know if you are, but so you can replay that over and over. But this is the recorder, and basically what it's doing is it's recording, but when you play a sound, so let me quick go back over to my macro here. And I'll just play a sound and watch what happens in the recorder.
Woo!
So you can see that the recorder, play this. You can see that the recorder is actually playing the audio clip. And you can see the progress bar here. You can see the volume. You can stop it from here if you would like, or you can stop it from the macro. But yeah, so basically it's loading up the audio that you have. So let's go back to our macro and look into this. Let me turn that off a second. Here. So the audio that we have, if we were looking at this one, let's actually turn this off a second. There we go. If we go back into the sound file or the soundboard button, so we're telling it recorder load. So we're just telling it to load something into the recorder, and then equals, and then you have the file path, and the file path does have to be surrounded by quotation marks on each end, and then it has to have a semicolon at the very end as well. That's how the code knows that it's a new line. But basically, you just find the path of your audio. So for example, this one is in my G drive, and these are the folders that it's in, and then here is the actual audio clip. And actually we can change that, so let's just change that real quick just as an example. Let me bring up some audio clips here. Let's go to sounds, vocal clips, and I'm just gonna let's do this one. That sounds like fun. So what we'll notice is that, first of all, this is still in the in my G drive, but it's in a different folder. So I want to copy this. We're going to copy that, and we're going to paste that into here. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this whole thing, but I'm going to keep the .mp3, and I'm going to paste that in there. Then I'm going to do a backslash. And then I'm going to go to the file name. Now, this is an MP3 file. These are all MP3 files I'm dealing with. If you have a WAV file, you're going to want to change it to .wav or whatever your audio file type is. But I'm just going to right-click here and go rename. And I'm not going to really rename it. I'm just copying the name of the file. And that's an important thing to take note of, is that the audio path and the file name have to be 100% accurate, meaning capitalization, no extra spaces. It has to be exactly where the audio path is. So copying, pasting is the best method. If you're comfortable with typing, you can. But if it doesn't work, definitely check your file path, because that's usually where an issue will come up. So I'm just going to save this and hit OK. And then if we actually, what we should have done is let's rename this to something like that. I don't know. and then hit OK. And then now if we hit the button,
my nipples are so hard I could dial a phone with them.
you got that. And then we can also still do the Control F7 key. Control F7.
My nipples are so hard I could dial a phone with them.
So I got the shortcut. I changed the audio path. So it's pretty easy to do that.
My nipples are so hard I could dial a phone with them.
But you'll notice that because this is a push button, I didn't put anything in the off section because we're not turning it off. It just plays the clip and then it's ready for us to hit again. So we don't need anything with the off position. If we wanted to do something like that, we could go to this, for example, the butt slam. And so what we'll see is this is a 2 position. So it's an on-off toggle because we got something in the on and something in the off. So basically what we're telling it, pretty much the same when we did the other audio file, recorder load, gave it the path, almost the exact same code. The only different thing here is that we have something now down here in the off triggers, and that's basically telling the recorder or record.stop, that stops the recorder from recording, and equals 1. And if you remember, what does 1 mean? That means on. So we are telling the recorder to stop, and this is basically saying, yes, we want the recorder to stop. Just think of this as someone asking a question saying, do you want the recorder to stop? And the equal sign is them asking the question, and this is us saying, yes, we want the recorder to stop. If we had 0, that would not make the recorder stop. So 0 means off. It's sometimes gets a little bit tricky, but just to remember, we're saying yes to whatever that question is. And that's, I mean, that's pretty much it if you want to do a 2 position. So 2, like that. And it's pretty easy to change from a push to a 2 position. All you have to do is just go up here, switch this. This is now a 2 position. Hit OK. And that's it. If we're going to move into something a little bit more advanced, I would say let's look at something like this. This is our talk over music. Now, let's say that we have an audio clip in here, and we want that clip to actually loop over and over. So once it's done, we want it to start again. Because if we're talking and the song ends, we're going to have to hit that button again for it to play. The 2 position mode will not loop. It just is an on and off switch. So you have, excuse me. So you have to tell the button, hey, we want this to loop. One thing that is going on here is we want to actually make this loopable because we didn't have that in here. So basically I'm going to tell recorder loop mode 1 because I want it to loop, and then 0 because when I hit the button to stop it, I want it to stop looping. That's really the only difference of what we had before. So let's actually take this and just copy that. I'm actually going to take, I'm just going to take that and copy it. I'm going to hit OK because this is a little bit long and I want to be able to show you that the loop can easily be implemented. I'm just going to put it here. We're going to change this to 1 so that it continues to loop. And then we're going to hit OK, and I'm going to go back over to this one. And I'm just going to copy off key here, all the code for the off, hit OK, back into here, paste that in there. And then I'm going to change this to 2 position so that it loops when we press it and then stops looping when we don't. So we'll hit OK. And if we did it right, so this would just keep looping over and over until we stop it. And once we stop it, it doesn't loop anymore. So that's just kind of setting up some soundboard stuff and getting a loop in there. You can do that with music. You can do that with voice. It's fun to play around with. Now, if we get a little bit deeper into things, let's just look at a few things here. And these I'll actually put up for you. I'm not going to go through coding them or anything. I'll explain what they do though. The mic duck is kind of interesting. So I'm going to switch over to the Voicemeeter here. And what I want you to do is I want you to watch these green fader gains right here on these strips. When I hit the button, the mic duck basically will move them down to a certain level, and then when I let go of the button, they go back up. So down, up, down, up. And then I have the lock one, which locks it in place, and I don't have to do anything. I can be free to move my mouse around, and I can move it back up. So let's switch back over to here so you can see what the code is on that. And this is a little bit more advanced because instead of controlling just one thing, we're controlling 3 different strips. So if I don't think it'll let me. No, it won't. Okay. So if I start up at the top here, we'll explain what's going on. If you kind of notice a little bit that this block and this block look the same, that's a good eye because they are pretty much the same, except we're just changing the strip that takes place on. Basically, we're telling strip 2, and if you remember, if you go into Voicemeeter, strip 2, how you find that is by going to hovering over the strip here, and you can see that this is strip 1 by looking at the context menu in yellow up at the top, and then this would be strip 2, but nothing is there, so it's strip, you can see there it's strip 2, and then strip 3 is going to be this one, and strip 4 is going to be this one, and so on and so forth. So we're telling this, back over to here, we're telling this strip 2, fade to -15 when we push the button, and then EQ goes to -12 when we push the button. And then the same thing for strip 3. Strip 3, -15 when we push the button. Their EQ on strip 3 goes to -12. This stuff up here, don't even worry about this because that's for advanced type stuff. That's for my my controller or my MIDI controller. This is basically telling it to send out light data to my MIDI controller so things light up. You don't have to put any of that in there. Don't worry about that. Just focus on this area and this area here. And then basically with the off, it means that when we let go of the button or we push that button to turn it off, our strip 2 is fading to 0, which is normal level, and back to 200, which I'm not 100% sure what that is. It might be like decibels or something. Just follow this, you'll be pretty good. And then again, the EQ goes to 0. Then strip 3, we're doing the same thing, and you can have it go to multiple different strips, kind of like that. Again, don't worry about this MIDI data because that's something separate and more advanced. But yeah, that's pretty much to do a fader gain. And any music that is coming through those strips will then be lowered, and you can talk over the music, and then you let go, and it goes back up. Pretty easy to do, nothing too difficult. So that one is for the ducking, and as I said, this is pretty much the same thing. You'll see the same kind of a code here and here, only it's just a 2 position. So instead of just pushing it, this is a locking. And then the big one that I have that I really love to use and is super fun, if you have what is called Voicemod, it is a voice changing program. It's got tons and tons of different features on it. This is Voicemod. Let me bring it up here. It basically gives you Is it? Here we go. A bunch of different voices and stuff you can use. You have a girl voice, you have auto tune, you have all sorts of weird stuff. You can actually program this to change your microphones. So switch from one strip to another. And I'll show you how that's done. So let me minimize this and bring up the macro buttons again. And in Voicemeeter, basically what we're telling it to do is, if this looks really familiar, you're right, because it's basically muting one strip and unmuting another, and then muting another strip and unmuting it again. So basically we're saying strip 0, which is our microphone. We know that. That's my Yeti microphone. I'm telling it to mute 1, so I'm saying, yes, we want to mute my microphone, my Yeti microphone. And then strip 1, which if we look at my Voicemeeter here, you can see this is strip 0. So strip 1 is where my voice mod is. And we are telling strip 1 to mute 0. So we're telling it to unmute. So this is mute, this is unmute. And then we're doing the exact opposite, or we're flipping that. And for the off position, we're then telling strip 0 to unmute, which is my mic. And then we're telling strip 1, which is voice mod, to mute. Pretty easy, nothing too difficult. So let's just kind of take a look at that in action. Again, don't worry about the MIDI stuff here. You don't need to put that crap in. I'm going to hit OK. And we'll switch back over so you can kind of see what is going on when I do hit this button. You're going to want to watch these two. You're going to see these two mute buttons kind of flip back and forth. And then let me turn on my voice mod here. So voice mod is now turned on, and you shouldn't be able to hear voice mod because it's coming from my Yeti microphone. But if I push this button, now it's unmuted and you should hear my voice mod voice effect taking place. It should be auto-tuned. And then if I let go, then it goes back to my normal voice. And I can lock that in just as we did before. But that's kind of switching the two back and forth. It's actually a lot simpler than what you would think. And it's fun to play around with. So like I could be talking and be like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then be like, you know, where's the auto, this, if I flip this switch, it's auto tune. Listen to this. Hey, what's going on? And then I flip this. Hey, what's going on? So fun little button to have there. Back over to our macros here. And I'll leave that up here for another second, just because I don't know if I had it up enough for someone to record or for someone to copy down. So there's that button. Again, just muting and unmuting mic. Different strips on that. So it's kind of cool how it works. We hit OK. And then I'll show you the last one that I have, and then I think we'll wrap this tutorial up, is the live record button. So, you know, we talked about the tape being the recorder. So basically, the tape can also record your voice, as I showed you. But you can connect the record and the play buttons to an actual macro button. So you can set it to a keyboard shortcut then, and just hit a keyboard shortcut to record and a keyboard shortcut to replay. So that's kind of cool. So let's go back over to the macro buttons here and bring that up. And again, it's almost the same as the audio clips or the sound effects that we had. Basically, we're telling it this time recorder record, and we're saying yes, we want you to record. We don't need to worry about this MIDI stuff. And then in the off position, we're telling it recorder record. No, we don't want it to record. And then we're telling recorder to stop. Yes, because we want the recording to stop. And that's how you record it. So you have one button for recording, and then you have another button for playing. So pretty simple with this one too. It's recorder.play, which is kind of what we saw with the audio files, equals 1, and then recorder.stop equals 1 to have it stopped. And so basically we can just do something like this. Hey, this is a tutorial test again for the live record button. And then we can play it. Hey, this is a tutorial test again for the live record button. And it's probably doing that because it's recording from both my mics, which is kind of funny. But it does work if you just have one mic going. It's absolutely fine. Just kind of an example of stuff you can do. You can loop it. So I do have another button here. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know if it's going to show. If I bring it up here, let me see if it will. Doubt it. There is another button that's down there, and it's for a looping button. So you could just add loop to this like we did on the other thing. So let's just add that real quick. I think we can do it. Yeah, Control V to loop it. Get rid of this recorder stop. I'm going to say recorder mode loop equals 1. I want it to loop. And then get rid of this one because we've got recorder stop in there already. And recorder mode loop 0 to turn it off. So if we hit OK, I should then be able to loop this. I think it's this one that we did it on, right? Yep, okay. On the play, I just hit play. Hey, this is a tutorial test again for the live record button. Hey, this is a tutorial test again for the live record button. Hey, this is a tutorial test again. As long as that button is held down, or if we do the push button, that loop will just keep playing over and over until we let go of the button or we turn it off. That's very basic stuff. As I said before, you can definitely do other things in here. You can control like the strips, you can control the buses and the fades and the EQs and do all sorts of weird things. You can turn on reverb, delay, and effects. Do different things with that. Switch patches, play around with the recorder. That's fun. There's some examples in here you can use. So definitely a bunch of different things that you can look into. It's got an audio ducking in here, so if you want to copy it from the actual manual, you can. Worth looking at the manual for things, absolutely. And yeah, like if you have any questions or anything like that, definitely feel free to ask. I'll try and guide you as best as I can. And if you actually program something cool, make sure to share the code in one of the Discord chats or something, so that everybody can kind of make use of these macro buttons. They're a lot of fun. You don't need a separate program. It's right there in Voicemeeter, so use it and have some fun. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you have a great one, and we'll see you next time. IceCat away.